You love to hate them, but do you know why? Here's how Limp Bizkit gained their notorious reputation. The long-running idea that Limp Bizkit are a band of grown men who haven't gotten over their teenage edgelord phase can be traced right back to their band name. Limp Bizkit is the kind of band name you'd expect from a bunch of bored 7th or 8th graders making an unholy racket, but according to lead singer Fred Durst, there's a method behind such madness. As quoted in the book Limp Bizkit by Colin Devonish, Durst said he chose the name because he wanted to filter out listeners who he knew would hate his band's music. He said, "The name is there to turn people's heads away. A lot of people pick up the disc and go, Limp Bizkit? Oh, they must suck. Those are the people that we don't even want listening to our music." Durst gave a slightly different explanation during a Reddit AMA, sharing how Limp Bizkit came about when the group was brainstorming band names. He explained, "I wanted it to have the same roll off of the tongue as Led Zeppelin, but be so odd that you would have a hard time forgetting it. Plus, we never really took our name or purpose very seriously, considering the chances of succeeding were slim to none at that point." Choosing a hilariously bad name to turn off unwanted listeners is one thing, but what if the plan seems to be working too well? By the start of 1998, Limp Bizkit's first album, $3 Bill Y'all, had been out for about half a year, and the band had yet to grab the attention of radio programmers. Hoping to help out the struggling rap rockers, their label, Flip Interscope, went to Portland radio station KUFO-FM in January 1998. The label agreed to pay $5,000 for the radio station to play the song Counterfeit about 50 times over a span of 5 weeks. That's not too many plays in the grand scheme of things, but no matter how you look at it, Flip Interscope and Limp Bizkit were involved in a pay-to-play scheme. This is essentially a legal version of the payola tactics that led to the downfall of early rock and roll era DJ Alan Freed several decades prior.
Hail down the roof, gang, because here's a new act that can blow it right up.
Instead of letting Bizkit's music do the talking, the label opened up their wallets so that a radio station could give exposure to a song that had otherwise failed to garner much attention. Despite the head start, Counterfeit didn't do too well on Billboard's rock charts. But Limp Bizkit's star would soon rise as the controversies surrounding the band, their lyrics, and their image began heating up. As Limp Bizkit continued to gain more traction with the release of their sophomore album, Significant Other, one thing became very apparent to a lot of fans and critics. Some of the band's songs featured some nasty lyrics directed toward women. Fred Durst addressed this issue in an interview with Rolling Stone, explaining to the publication that Limp Bizkit's second album was, in fact, about his former significant other and the pain he felt over their breakup. Referring to the misogyny accusations, he said, "That's because I said the words and bitch. My whole record is about my girlfriend who put me through the ringer for 3 years and my insecurity about it. It became this big thing." While some critics have tried to see the bigger picture when it comes to songs like Nookie, the perceived misogynist tone of Limp Bizkit's lyrics have followed the band for most of their career. It hasn't helped that the band liked to proclaim their love of women before performing songs with offensive language aimed at ex-girlfriends and others. Granted, they're far from the only band or performer that has faced such accusations, but when you've got a frontman who regularly raps about doing it all for the nookie, it's hard to live down your reputation as a misogynistic act. Despite the differences in their overall sound and lyrical content, Limp Bizkit and Korn were particularly close in the nu metal scene. To further highlight the bond between the two acts, Fred Durst became a guest performer on Korn's All in the Family, a track off the band's 1998 album, Follow the Leader. Overall, Follow the Leader scored solid reviews as the Bakersfield-based band continued its evolutionary path toward nu metal greatness. But it was that one track that stuck out like a sore thumb on an otherwise strong record. Durst's verbal sparring with Korn frontman Jonathan Davis is laced with homophobic insults. According to Rolling Stone, the use of such derogatory language cheapened the fact that Davis sometimes used Korn's music to fire back at the homophobic bullies who picked on him when he was a kid. In a 1999 interview with Rolling Stone, Durst defended his collaboration with Korn, stressing that there was no anti-LGBTQ intent in the lyrics. He claimed that it was just two friends razzing each other through song. However, he also said that the controversy caused by All in the Family only added to Limp Bizkit's notoriety and his own, which was just fine by him. He added, "It's another reason to not like this obnoxious band." this guy who starts riots at shows, stage dives, pulls chicks on stage, tells promoters to kiss his ass. You gotta hate this guy. Well, I hope it turns into the guy you love to hate. Let's get one thing straight. You do not listen to Limp Bizkit if you are looking for a thinking man's band.
Great Scott!
Even if you take away the misogynistic and occasional homophobic undertones, Limp Bizkit are a band who never exactly reinvented the wheel when it came to their lyrics. But where do you draw the line when it comes to a lack of substance in music? While mostly giving out backhanded compliments, multiple Rate Your Music reviewers cited examples of Bizkit's lowest common denominator appeal, such as the song Hot Dog using the F word almost 50 times, and the fact that the title of their third album, Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water, is a reference to two kinds of human waste. As one reviewer writes, they appeal to kids because kids are on the whole weak and influential and think violence and swearing are cool. On the other hand, some have questioned whether Fred Durst's supposed angst on many a Limp Bizkit song is genuine to begin with. In his review of Bizkit's 2003 album Results May Vary, YouTuber Luke Spencer described Durst's anger as fake. In terms of the record's overall feel, he said, "It's like listening to a little kid at a grocery store complaining because he didn't get the candy bar he wanted." If you're talking about the type of person who listens to Limp Bizkit, there's one archetype that almost always comes to mind. That, of course, is the drunken college frat kid who barely shows up for his classes and spends most of his time partying with his buddies. Various music publications have compared Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit to frat boys, not only because of their song's lyrical content, but also because of Durst's image as an obnoxious, overly aggressive kind of guy. This is a reputation the band hasn't ever been able to live down, even with everyone in Bizkit now comfortably in middle age. In short, if Van Wilder was a band, his name would be Limp Bizkit. Even Limp Bizkit's fellow musicians can't help but make that comparison. In the new metal episode of VH1's Metal Evolution, Slayer guitarist Kerry King said that Bizkit's popularity was one reason why he didn't put a lot of effort into Diabolus in Musica, his band's 1998 album. He said, "I thought it was very frat boy stuff, and maybe that's why it was popular, I don't know. So Diabolus didn't get as much attention from me because, we didn't stay in focus." Limp Bizkit has long held a reputation as a band that isn't above recording or performing oddball covers of unlikely songs. For example, their version of George Michael's 1987 hit Faith was one of their first prominent rock hits. While this is, at the very most, a fun scream-along version of Michael's more sedate 50s rock and roll flavored original, Limp Bizkit's Faith cover was released right as Michael was dealing with the fallout from his 1998 arrest for public indecency. As quoted by Metal Hammer, Fred Durst suggested that Michael's arrest might have helped Faith become as big as it did for Limp Bizkit. He said, "I didn't expect him to get busted in that bathroom, but his misfortune actually helped us. We couldn't have asked for more of a buzz." Unfortunately, Michael apparently wasn't a fan of the Faith cover. In Colin Devanish's Limp Bizkit biography, guitarist Wes Borland is quoted as saying, "What we've heard from George Michael's people is that he hates it, and he hates us for doing it." Limp Bizkit's My Generation may have been a completely different song from The Who's classic from the mid-60s. Strangely enough, however, Fred Durst and company did once cover a song from the iconic British band. This time, Bizkit chose one of the more recognizable songs from The Who's 1971 album, Who's Next, adding their own twist to Behind Blue Eyes. Of course, adding your own twist to a classic rock staple doesn't necessarily make the newer version any good, and that was a sentiment shared by many a Rolling Stone reader. The publication named it the second worst cover song of all time based on reader votes. Much of the vitriol was directed at the video, which features Oscar-winning actor Halle Berry and Durst kissing while a sampled Speak and Spell reads the words Limp Bizkit aloud. It wasn't exactly great, although to be fair, it wasn't that much worse than Catwoman.
Guess what? It's overtime.
Focusing much more attention on the song itself, Rocked Reviews commented that Behind Blue Eyes exposed Durst as a subpar singer, likewise describing the Speak and Spell audio as the thing that really destroyed the song. Notably, Limp Bizkit's version doesn't even include the fast-paced instrumental break and refrain from The Who's original, though it's probably just as well. Given the chance, Durst might well have transformed that section into a profanity-laced rap metal breakdown. Even with all the shouting and screaming in nu metal, it pays to be a decent singer or rapper. Unfortunately, many listeners don't see Fred Durst as being any good at either of those things. Take a look at the comment section of a YouTube upload of Durst's isolated vocals on Limp Bizkit's Faith cover. One user writes, "Fred delivers this with the gusto and confidence of a drunk groomsman." Another says, "When he's screaming 'Gotta have faith,' he sounds like a Call of Duty kid having a tantrum because he lost the match." Over at Reddit, many fans mentioned Durst's supposedly subpar singing and rapping as one of Limp Bizkit's weak points, if not the weakest. As one Redditor wrote, "I love LB, but honestly Fred is just a bad rapper and singer and really holds the band back." In another thread, a user shared similar sentiments, explaining, "Fred Durst in particular was a weak rapper with a whiny voice and a super fake tough dude effect. It was well beyond the usual contempt for whoever is famous." It's easy to dunk on Fred Durst for his perceived lack of vocal talent. With that in mind, numerous fans feel that he is everything that is wrong with Limp Bizkit. In fact, hardly anyone has anything bad to say about most of his bandmates' musicianship. One Reddit user made an interesting case for rewriting the Limp Bizkit story, suggesting that, if they had chosen someone else as their frontman, the band wouldn't be hated nearly as much. Specifically mentioning guitarist Wes Borland as a capable and interesting performer, the user added, "Fred Durst has totally robbed their place in history. His egotism may have been a draw for them at the time, but that combined with his nasally vocal style has firmly cemented their fate as douche rock." Expounding on the original poster's point, another Redditor praised Borland for his creativity, but highlighted the rhythm section of bassist Sam Rivers and drummer John Otto. They continued, "Otto's fills are inventive and he can really groove. Sam isn't afraid of the high register on his bass and knows a thing or two about syncing in with a kick drum." The same user hypothesized that Limp Bizkit would be much more widely loved if they had someone like Deftones' Chino Moreno or Refused's Dennis Lyxzén singing lead. Limp Bizkit's status as one of the purported villains of the Woodstock '99 narrative probably needs little introduction.
Dude, it's not our fault. That's all I can say.
To sum it all up, the Florida rap rockers are seen by many as the reason why violence and chaos replaced peace and love as the main themes of Woodstock. This was quite evident as Fred Durst addressed the already unruly crowd, advising them to look out for one another, but also encouraging them to double down on the wild behavior. He reportedly told attendees, "People are getting hurt. Don't let anybody get hurt, but I don't think you should mellow out. That's what Alanis Morissette had you do. If someone falls, pick them up. We already let the negative energy out. Now we want to let out the positive energy." Pandemonium ensued. Reports of a sexual assault taking place during Bizkit's set only made matters worse. 2 decades later, Durst still refused to take any accountability for what happened at Woodstock '99. In a 2019 interview with Variety, he said, "It's easy to point the finger and blame us, but they hired us for what we do, and all we did is what we do. I would turn the finger and point it back to the people that hired us." Durst was talking about Woodstock '99 organizers Michael Lang and John Scher, the latter of whom singled Durst out multiple times for his words and actions at the event.
"I didn't take into account what a jerk Fred Durst is."
Fred Durst is a man who isn't afraid to speak his mind, and so, unsurprisingly, he has found himself embroiled in his fair share of feuds with other artists. His beef with Slipknot frontman Corey Taylor stands out for the petty comments that started it all. During a 1999 concert, Durst purportedly told the audience that Slipknot fans are a bunch of fat, ugly kids. This led to an appearance on an Australian TV show on which Taylor pointed out that many Slipknot fans also like Limp Bizkit.
So what you're basically saying is that your fans are fat, ugly kids too? Is that what you're trying to say to me?
Durst isn't the only Limp Bizkit member who sparked a feud with another act. During a December 2000 appearance on MTV's Total Request Live, DJ Lethal was asked about his former House of Pain bandmate Everlast's beef with Eminem. He first expressed optimism that they'd patch things up before teasing that Everlast would definitely win in a hypothetical fight. As you'd expect from any rapper, Eminem fought back by dissing Lethal, Durst, and Limp Bizkit in song. In Girls, which appeared on D12's 2001 album Devil's Night, Eminem called them cowards and sissies, among many other unsavory things. Although they are often considered to be similar in genre, Limp Bizkit and Rage Against the Machine are pretty much polar opposites. One band specializes in juvenile jock jams, The other calls attention to police brutality, systemic racism, and other forms of social injustice. Similarly, Limp Bizkit like to release goofy videos with celebrity cameos, while Rage puts out videos that are as thought-provoking as their music. It's no wonder, then, that the two bands have come to blows every now and then. At the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards, the general feeling was that Rage Against the Machine were an overwhelming favorite for Best Rock Video, thanks to their Michael Moore-directed clip for Sleep Now in the Fire. Instead, they lost out to Limp Bizkit's Break Stuff, which followed the band's formula for mindless fun and random appearances from famous people. Unhappy with Bizkit's unexpected win, Rage bassist Tim Comerford pulled off a wild stunt, climbing up a metal structure, as he and his bandmates accepted their award. Durst deadpanned, "And we got a madman." Comerford was soon arrested for disorderly conduct, later explaining to MTV that he wanted to bring the whole structure down, and that he would have had the people standing in front of it moved out of the way. Appearing on Dean Del Rey's Let There Be Talk podcast in 2018, drummer Brad Wilk looked back on the incident, admitting that he and his bandmates weren't exactly fans of Limp Bizkit. He also revealed that one person in particular really wanted Comerford to climb the structure.
I think there were other people in the band going, no. You're like, no, don't do anything. And Michael Moore just goes, just go with it, go with your heart.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, Limp Bizkit have often name-checked Rage Against the Machine as one of their influences. In the new metal episode of VH1's Metal Evolution series, DJ Lethal specified Rage guitarist Tom Morello as one of the people who inspired him to add a harder rock edge to his work on the turntables. For a while, Killing in the Name was a concert staple for Limp Bizkit, and during one show in New York, Fred Durst said that Rage Against the Machine changed his life. As evidenced by Tim Comerford's stunt at the VMAs, Rage didn't really share the same positive feelings toward the younger band. In a 2015 interview with Rolling Stone, the bassist expressed regret that he and his bandmates were such a key part of Limp Bizkit's musical blueprint. He said, "I do apologize for Limp Bizkit. I really do. I feel really bad that we inspired such bullshit." Rage Against the Machine's regret over inspiring Limp Bizkit and other new metal bands, however, dates further back than the VMAs. Commenting on the mayhem at Woodstock 99, Morello lamented in an interview that Rage had once hoped to make meaningful music that could help fans connect with the band. Things fell off the rails when some of the bands they influenced emerged. He explained, "And that show became a bunch of thugs assaulting women in the pit and burning the festival to the ground. I was just looking around thinking, man, what have we done?" Years before Rockstar INXS, Limp Bizkit held something akin to a reality TV hunt after guitarist Wes Borland quit the group in late 2001. A lot of pomp and circumstance ended up thrown in the Put Your Money Where Your Guitar Is series of auditions at Guitar Center locations across the US. Thousands of bright-eyed musicians competed for a chance to join one of the hottest bands in the country. Unfortunately, multiple hopefuls complained about waiting in line for hours and only getting less than a minute to show off their skills. It didn't help that they were asked to sign waivers allowing Limp Bizkit to use their images in a potential documentary. Reacting to the furor over the chaotic audition process, Fred Durst issued a statement on Limp Bizkit's official website. He essentially lashed out at those who complained about the search, saying, "Anyone who is mad about their experience trying out for Limp Bizkit simply and plainly 100% sucked. In no way whatsoever would Limp Bizkit ever steal or take anything from anyone on this planet." Despite reports that they would invite about 30 guitarists for another round of auditions, Limp Bizkit ultimately went with an established name, replacing Borland with former Snot axeman Mike Smith and announcing his arrival in April 2003, over a year after their guitarist search began. And it was all much ado about nothing, too, as Borland was back with Bizkit just 1 year later. He departed again, and then returned when the band emerged from a long hiatus in 2009. Did Limp Bizkit's bad boy frontman Fred Durst date pop superstar Britney Spears for a brief period of time? To quote a lyric from one of Bizkit's biggest hits, "It's all about the he says, she says." And if you ask Durst, there was definitely something between him and the Baby One More Time singer, as he revealed in a 2003 appearance on The Howard Stern Show. Responding to Robin Quivers' remark about Spears saying she and Durst never dated, the frontman said,
"It's like she's trying to play me out a little bit because she's Britney Spears.
Yeah.
And she feels like she can do that."
As Stern and his co-hosts encouraged him to spill the beans, Durst went on to share salacious stories of Spears returning to the studio to hang out with him after the two had finished working on some songs.
Well, she's definitely different than you think.
A spokesperson for Spears denied these claims, issuing a statement to MTV News that read, "It's sad that he's decided to make up stories, and the situation feels very junior high school." However, Durst stuck to his narrative as the years passed, revealing 6 years later that the alleged fling really took place. He said, "I just guessed at the time it was taboo for a guy like me to be associated with a gal like her." Limp Bizkit's 2011 album Gold Cobra was their first release of new music since the 2005 EP, The Unquestionable Truth Part 1. Critics immediately noticed how it was the same old Bizkit, older but not necessarily wiser. In their review of the album, NME pointed out that it's difficult to believe Limp Bizkit could return after all this time somehow even more hateful than before. They cited the album's gratuitous profanity and the head-scratching song title My Own Cobain as examples of the band sticking to tired nu metal tropes well after the genre's sell-by date. The BBC likewise saw Gold Cobra as a hot mess, singling out Wes Borland's guitar work as the only thing about the record that didn't sound hopelessly dated. They also found it ludicrous that the teenage fans who liked Limp Bizkit at their peak would still worship at the shrine of their one-time idols as presumably mature adults. The BBC's critic wrote, "The notion of 30-something listeners pimp-rolling through the streets listening to a 40-year-old singer whine about haters is incongruous at best." While all music was kinder toward the musicianship on Gold Cobra, the site used the term deliberate retro rage to refer to Limp Bizkit's lack of lyrical evolution. It seems that some things never change. Or do they? With the band members now in their 40s and early 50s, Limp Bizkit are still very much at it, and arguably more self-aware than they've ever been. Their 2021 album Still Sucks is a good example of this. Heck, the record even has a track called Dad Vibes, which perfectly describes the look Fred Durst debuted at Lollapalooza in 2021. If such a thing is possible, it looks like Limp Bizkit have finally mellowed with age. And the solid critic and fan reviews Still Sucks attracted on Metacritic make for an encouraging sign for a band with such a troubled reputation. However, the old adage still applies to Limp Bizkit, who seemingly can't please everybody with this more ironic incarnation of the band. Rate Your Music has Still Sucks averaging just 2.69 stars out of 5, with a number of reviewers observing that the album has its share of bad or filler tracks. One user even opined that Still Sucks isn't far removed from Bizkit's older, formulaic material. They wrote, "Rap rock that sounds so bad they're good. Only there are actually some songs in here I did kinda like. Might need to re-listen to it in the future, but for now, it's a big fat for me."